Alright, well, let me just start this video by saying I'm not a stats guy, I'm not an advanced stats guy at least. I won't be showing any stats in this video, but this is what I just see with my own eyes in the media and on a daily basis. But anyway, yeah, as the title suggests, we're going to be talking about running backs. I feel like running backs are the most marginalized group, the most criticized, and also the most underappreciated group of in the league right now, just in general. I feel like they're the most disrespected skill position in terms of money, in terms of money making. If you paid attention to sports at all, during the offseason, you would see those clips that surface of the Giants GMs and how they were talking about Saquon Barkley. Saying they really felt like he was just not worth that market. It was really kind of sad and surprising to see that they kind of just cut him loose because they just didn't believe that he was that valuable at running back. And you see, if you're into the NFL, he dropped 2,000 yards in a NFL season. Like, that is extremely impressive. It's crazy how Saquon dropped 2,000 yards, and it also brings up the problem with MVP as well, but that's a whole different conversation. But he should have won MVP, dropping 2,000 yards on the ground. It should have been Saquon, or it could have been Jamar Chase, but this is about running backs, so back to that concept. Running backs are very underappreciated for the amount of damage they take, the amount of, how important they are to a team. And it's like, I feel like a lot of scouts, a lot of GMs, and a lot of owners really just don't care that much about what kind of running back they have. But for example, right, when you think about teams like Kansas City, it really doesn't matter who's at the running back position, because really their offense is really centered towards passing. A lot of teams nowadays are really trying to balance out the stretch offense and pass the ball but influence the run. But a lot of teams don't even need to do that, because when you have weapons like AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, right, you would think they pass the ball more, but Saquon still ran for 2,000 yards. So you can have the weapons and still use your running back in an effective run game. And the best example of using your backs is the Detroit Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery were the best examples of using your backs while having great weapons like Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta and Jameson Williams. They managed to have a full and complete run game and efficient pass game, and they're probably the best team to do it aside from the Saints back in the day, and they were extremely effective. These guys knew how to use their backs to their maximum capacity and how to use them to the most and best efficiency. And I feel like that's really lost in a lot of schemes that I've seen, because there's a lot of elite running backs who had a great years this year. Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey was great with the 49ers. Aaron Jones had a phenomenal year, even though Sam Darnold broke out and got Justin Jefferson moved. Josh Jacobs had a good year. Breece Hall was kind of quiet, but he's been a great back all his years. Bijan Robinson is really nice. He showed out in Atlanta. He showed that when he got a coordinator that actually knew how to use him, he was able to be effective in the pass and the run game. These are all great backs who got the opportunity to show out and really show you that the running back position is not to be slept on or disrespected. You should really respect the running backs of this team, because honestly, without a proper run game, you really can't win that well. You know what I mean? Or at least without it being the focal point. Because using the Super Bowl this year as an example, the Chiefs tried their hardest to stop Saquon. If you watch that, Saquon had over 20 rushes and barely got over 50 yards. They focused their entire defense on stopping Saquon. It was very apparent that they respected Saquon. They respected his abilities. They respected his way to break out and get big touchdowns, especially after what he did to Washington. The very first play of that playoff game against Washington, the first play, he broke off a 50-60 yard run straight to the grip. So that when you watch film on Saquon, he's the top running back. He dropped 2,000 yards. He's effective in the pass game. You got to scheme up to stop him too. It's about Devontae Smith and it's about AJ Brown and the weapons that they have in Jalen Hurts. But Saquon is the focal point when you talk about, these big running backs. And that's the thing. Why are these running backs so underpaid is my question. Why don't they get the big contracts like a receiver? Or even, some tight ends even get paid more. Gronkowski got paid more. Kelsey gets paid more. guys like Tony Gonzalez, Shannon Sharp, they got paid a little bit more than running backs back in the day because their abilities impacted the game. And I felt like they're more respected because of the position they play, unlike running backs. Running backs take the most hits, the most damage, like guys like, prime example, Nick Chubb tore both his ACLs, man, and still came back, tore his ACL again, and still came back and was still effective in the run game. These running backs put their bodies on the line the most. When you hand that ball off, it's like a live grenade. They can get hit in the legs, the shins, the ankles, high chest area, hitting the head bounces off the ground. Like, they take the most damage that you can have in a running back, and I feel like it needs to be more respected, and it's been highlighted. Let's go to the college football playoffs. Was a great showcase for all the running backs that are coming into this draft. Matter of fact, the whole college football season as a whole was a great showing. But the college football playoffs showed you that great running backs make great plays. You know what I mean? In the national championship, Quinshon Judkins had 2 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, and were dominant rushing touchdowns too. Guys like Ashton Gentia, Marion Hampton, Cam Scatteroo, Dylan Sampson, you know what I'm saying? These are guys that can be game changers for you in this upcoming draft. There are so many great running backs. This running back class is probably one of the deepest I've seen in terms of yardage, in terms of effectiveness on the field, and in terms of being just great players. These guys will change your franchise for the best the moment they step on the field. They're great game changers. They really show you that you need to do your homework on these running backs. It shows you that you shouldn't underpay somebody because you believe that, I should pay my star quarterback this money, or I should pay my star wide receiver this money, because without being able to pass, what's the point of running? And I feel like that's the mindset in 2025 for these GMs and these owners is, if we can't pass the ball, what's the point of trying at all? You know what I mean? And it's just, I feel like that's really lost. Like, running backs that are great, like Ashton Genty was absolutely dominant. And a lot of people like to talk about the competition, and I get that too. That's my argument too. Which is why I did want Travis Hunter to win the Heisman, but we're going to move on from that. But Ashton Genty, he's like that, man. He showed me that he can come in and he might make some real impact. He didn't have a great showing against Notre Dame. And I feel like that's what a lot of people are going to look at, that game, instead of the overall season. But I was heavily critical. Heavily critical of that game too, honestly, because truthfully, when he went up against a top 5 rushing defense, he did not perform the way he was supposed to perform, to be honest. The almighty Ashton Genty that he needed to live up to. And that's what GMs are going to be looking at. How does he perform against great defenses? How does he perform against, like an Eagles, or honestly KC, because they stopped the run pretty good. Like, how does he perform against top rushing defensive teams? You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what gets lost in these conversations is, what does he do against top talent instead of what can he do to help the team win? That gets lost a lot. Another running back I want to highlight is Caleb Johnson at Iowa. He had a phenomenal year, and it's going completely under the radar. He's going to be one of the sleeper running backs in this draft. Another sleeper running back is going to be Raheem Sanders, Big Tank Sanders, man. I watched him against LSU because I'm an LSU fan. I watched him tear up my team. I love power backs. Way more, and I know my running back is Saints Alvin Kamara, but I love power backs. I loved watching Mark Ingram and that boom and zoom, man. That was amazing to me. I love watching power backs get to work, and I love watching power backs with speed. That's why Derrick Henry is one of my favorite backs as well. I love watching big backs with great speed that can't be stopped. These guys are going to make big impacts on the field, and I feel like when it comes to contract time, they just won't get what they deserve. And I feel like that's just really crazy to me. These guys are some of the best players and can be the best players on the field. Christian McCaffrey should have won MVP last season 100%. He was the most dominant, he was the most passionate, and he was the best player in football that year, which is why they made the Super Bowl. Christian McCaffrey quite literally carried that 49ers team to the Super Bowl. And we see what happened this year without that proper run game. They just showed you, it's a proven fact, that if you don't have a consistent run game, you're just not going to win. They literally showed you that this year because guess what? The 49ers were eliminated in the playoffs before week 11. Like, they could not get anything going. Receivers are falling off. Deebo Samuels has requested a trade now, and it's just the impact of the running back shows you that you need to be the one, whether that's a GM, whether that's an owner, to recognize the talent that you're bringing into your organization and how you can use it. Because frankly, I feel like running backs are really just like the wear and tear of the team. Like they feel like they just use them up and they say, oh, he's 30, drop him. And that's the other stereotype. Once a running back reaches 30, you drop him. Look at Derrick Henry's production. This is the greatest running back year he's had in his career. This guy literally ran out there at 31 years of age and went out there and dropped 1,921 yards in a year. He was just behind Saquon with 16 touchdowns as well. These guys are facilitators on the offense. They're game managers. They're game changers. These guys are some of the best players on the field and the best players in football. And I feel like it needs to be highlighted and it needs to be appreciated. At least that's just how I feel.